Hey you guys, welcome back to Freckles and Blondie, the show where we fight about John Locke. See? Times have changed, Randy.
Wow, who would have thought back in the beginning?
I know, we've come so far this season. I mean, we'll still fight about Sawyer and Jack for sure.
Yeah, but now we can add Locke to that list as well.
Yeah. He's been like number one for the last few episodes, I feel like.
I know.
We're just expanding our animosity into like new facets of the show.
Yeah, it's interesting for sure.
So, this is our season 1 wrap-up show. Yay!
Woot woot.
This episode's going to be kind of different from what we've done in the past. We have no plan today.
Yeah, so bear with us.
Yeah, we're true podcasting professionals. We just came to discuss, and yeah, I think it'll be great.
Yeah, it will.
See, we're doing great already.
Yeah.
So, okay, we have 3 things to really talk about. We have the season 1 theme, we have the poll, and then we have the voicemails.
So, season 1 poll. The first question was favorite character for season 1.
Yes. So, season 1 poll, I think it was a success. We were really happy that everybody participated and we got to see some opinions that were not ours for once.
Yeah, so if you took the time to fill that out, thank you so much.
Yes, you rock. Especially because you voted Sawyer as your favorite character.
There's a lot of Sawyer love in this poll.
There is a lot of Sawyer love and Locke love.
Feeling a little ostracized.
I know, Randy. Don't take it personally.
Oh, I'll try not to.
Yep. So we had, it wasn't actually, Sawyer didn't actually win. He's just, I guess it's, I don't know how it chose who came up first, but Sawyer and Locke tied as the most popular characters for season 1. And then Charlie. He was in 3rd place. You love Charlie, so there you go, Randy.
Yeah, that made me happy.
Why do you think Sawyer and Locke appeal to so many people?
That's a hard question since I don't really like either of them. But
Yeah, that's kind of why I thought it would be funny for you to explain that.
I don't know. I mean, I think I can understand it a little bit more with Locke, even though he kind of infuriates me in the back half of the season. I mean, he's definitely one of the most interesting characters. His backstory is so tragic, and his faith and his beliefs are such a big part of him. So
Yeah. And I would say that of all the seasons, season 1 is the one where Locke shines the most. Like,
yeah.
this is his season, like, in my opinion. And I might change my mind as we, like, keep watching, but I feel like this is the, like, pinnacle of Locke love for me.
Yeah, I'd probably agree with that too.
But, yeah, and then, like you mentioned, him being so interesting and having that kind of tragic and sympathetic backstory, and Sawyer is very similar in that way, where he's got that, dark past, and he's just interesting. They're 2 characters who stand out, I think.
Yeah, definitely.
And they're complicated, and I think a lot of people who enjoy Lost enjoy the kind of complicated aspects of it. That definitely sets Lost apart from other shows, I think.
It's not just black and white. So, yeah, I've lost track of how many times we've said Sawyer or Locke is a complicated character, so.
I know, we have to stop saying that.
Yeah.
Can't help it. It's so true.
So who is your favorite character for season 1?
Locke. Has to be Locke. He's just so wonderful. And it's like, if I had to pick a character who, like, really reeled me into the show, it would definitely be him. Because he just kind of opens up the world, and without him, it wouldn't feel so... There would be so much less mystery to it. It would feel like more of the, like, reality show premise thing that they were talking about.
Yeah.
Where they were like, we're just going to have a show about some people who crash land on an island. Like, without Locke, it could almost be that,
Yeah.
Without Locke and without the monster.
Right.
Yeah, he just kind of opens the door to all the mysticism and fun that we're about to have.
Yeah, he creates an interesting conflict, especially with, against someone like Jack, who kind of believes the exact opposite, so.
Yeah, and I'd say against most of the people on the island right now, I feel like he's fighting an uphill battle, and part of his struggle will be trying to get people to see things his way, and that's going to be really hard.
Yeah, definitely.
But I think he's got, it sounds like he has Charlie on his side. At least.
Yeah.
Charlie's pointed out a few times that John Locke would save everybody.
Right. Yeah. Speaking of Charlie, he was my favorite character. I'm sure that will surprise no one who's been listening since the first episode of this podcast.
That does surprise me. I thought you were going to say Jack.
It was close. But I don't know. It had to be Charlie. I feel like I like his whole character arc throughout the season.
Mm-hmm.
I know you were really disappointed with where he ended up at the end of Exodus, but I feel like he starts in such a low place. Like, he's addicted to drugs, it's kind of self-centered, and then, he has this kind of triumphant moment at the end of The Moth when Locke helps him to give up the drugs. And then, when he steps up and kills Ethan to protect Claire and everyone else. I don't know. I like his character arc. I feel like his best and worst moments are still ahead of him, but...
Yeah, that's so true.
Yeah. But I like what they do with him throughout this whole season.
Yeah. I like Charlie. I always feel like Charlie is at his best with Claire. Like, for me, that's the Charlie I like, is the Charlie who is trying to be a better guy for her. And, we see the beginnings of their relationship in this season, and it's so nice. It's the sweetest, most pure relationship on the island right now.
Yeah, definitely.
So that's our favorite character.
Yeah.
Should we talk about our least favorite character?
Yeah. What were the poll results for that, for least favorite character?
So, for least favorite character, Michael scraped out the win. And he just barely beat Shannon by 1 vote.
Oh, yeah. Neither of those is very surprising, if you ask me.
It's pretty much expected, I think. Yeah. I would agree with that, actually. I mean, Shannon is not... I wouldn't vote for Shannon, but I did choose Michael.
Did you?
Michael and Jack.
All right. Come on.
I chose Michael, Jack, and Boone.
You put Jack on the level with Michael and Boone?
He really infuriates me,
This
Randy.
podcast is over. Goodbye. Thanks for listening.
Are you really surprised?
I mean, yeah, because even though Sawyer infuriates me, he was nowhere near on the level where my least favorite character was. But
That's the thing with Jack, though, is he doesn't just bug me. He is my least favorite character, and he gets the most screen time.
Mm-hmm.
So that just adds to my frustrations, probably.
I'm surprised you even finished watching Lost for how much you hate Jack, and he's the main character.
Well, yeah. There's just so much good about it. I don't know. The people he's in conflict with all the time are always the characters I like. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So maybe that adds to why I like those characters, or I don't know.
Uh-huh.
Luckily, I really like Kate, and Kate's usually in Jack episodes.
That's true.
But what about you? Who were your least favorite characters?
Definitely Boone.
Yeah.
For sure. I was actually kind of surprised he didn't win the poll, but
I know. He got 7 votes.
Yeah.
9%. Jack got 9, Randy.
Okay.
And Jen. Poor freaking Jen. Did you notice that?
I did. That was kind of surprising.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm saying this all out of order. It was Michael was the least favorite, followed by Shannon, Jen, Jack, and Boone. And then Walt.
What did Walt ever do?
I don't know. What is up with you guys?
Maybe people are resentful because he burned the first raft.
I guess. They really liked that raft. Poor kid. But yeah, I was also surprised that Boone was not higher. I mean, like I said, the feedback we've been getting has been that people enjoy Boone.
Yeah.
It's very interesting.
Yeah.
I can't explain it. I really can't. I don't know.
If you like Boone, good for you. Nothing against
Yes.
you or him or the actor who plays him, but
Right.
he was hard to care about. He's constantly, like, he wants to help, but he gets it wrong a lot of the time. Like, things just don't go his way, seemingly ever, so.
Yeah, and I guess I can see that he is well-intended a lot of the time, even though he seems to be messing stuff up. I guess he is trying, but it's hard. I just find him so selfish. I just can't get over it.
Yeah, it is selfish, and I guess you could argue he does kind of redeem himself, when he dies, but by that point it was like too little too late for me at least.
Yeah.
But I would put Shannon at a close second. I'm not a huge fan of her either.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
I mean, I can see that for similar reasons to Boone. They're both really selfish.
Yeah, they are.
And I think they both were growing by the end of the season, but yeah, I can see how they're very off-putting characters.
Yeah, definitely.
I feel like we should make a blanket statement that if you love or hate any of these characters, that is totally fine. Like, nobody is right or wrong in any of this.
Yeah.
This is all just fun and interesting, and if I hate your character or you hate my character, like, it's all good,
Yeah, these are just our opinions. So if we hate the character you love or, vice versa, don't let that lessen how much you enjoy watching Lost as a show.
Or lessen your opinion of that character. Like, you feel that way for the reasons you do. And
Yeah.
everyone comes to everything with their own backstory and appeals and dislikes. So,
Exactly. Everyone has a valid opinion.
exactly. And even if you think Walt is a horrible character, we're okay with that.
Oh, God.
Let's talk about favorite and least favorite episodes.
So, favorite episode for season 1. I guess I'll just go ahead and say my favorite. I feel
Sure.
like this was really, really hard for me to choose. There were like 5 episodes that I could have easily picked for my favorite.
I couldn't choose, so I chose 3.
Okay. Maybe I should have done that. But the one I ended up going with was Exodus Part 1.
Oh.
Yeah.
Nice.
And I don't know if that's partly because we just watched it a couple of weeks ago, so it's kind of the freshest in my head right now, but
Right.
I just thought that was such a perfect episode. It was so emotional. The writing was so good. All the characters felt consistent.
Well, and it
Yeah.
had your favorite scene from season 1.
Exactly. It had my all-time favorite scene between Jack and Sawyer when Sawyer tells Jack about his dad in Australia. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I love that episode.
That's awesome. That's a good episode. I didn't break it down in the poll.
I know, I saw that. So,
I was just like, Exodus.
I feel like
But-
you have to differentiate because I don't think Exodus Part 2 was quite as good as Part 1, at least for me.
Well, I like your specificity. Hard word to say. Specificity.
Yeah. But yeah, I would say The Moth was probably my second favorite. It was so close.
Yeah. The Moth is, like, when I was trying to decide my favorites, and I had to struggle to get it down to 3, The Moth was the one that I really wanted to get in there, but I didn't.
Yeah.
That would probably be my number 4.
Wait, can I guess one of your 3?
I'm sure you'll get it, but go ahead.
It's gotta be Walkabout, right?
Oh, yes. Walkabout's probably my number... It's too hard to pick one or two, but it's either my favorite or second favorite, just between that and the pilot, because the pilot is just iconic and amazing, and I love it.
It is. It really is.
And Walkabout is also amazing. It's so good. And then my other favorite was Deus Ex Machina.
Oh, that's kind of surprising.
Really? Why?
I thought you would have said Confidence Man.
I like Confidence Man and I like Time with Sawyer, but that episode just, it doesn't grip me the way both of Locke's episodes have this season. I feel like both of those episodes, I could not stop talking about them because I was so excited.
You chose the 2 Locke episodes. That's so funny.
They just got me, and I loved Confidence Man, and I love Sawyer, and there are a lot of great scenes in Confidence Man that I enjoy. But yeah, that's probably my number 5. Let me just go down the list. But the poll results were actually really similar to mine, which I was very surprised about. Number 1 was the pilot, followed by Walkabout, followed by Exodus, which was yours.
Yeah.
And that was followed by Deus Ex Machina.
Interesting. Yeah, I feel like that's Lost. We said this before, but Lost does season openers and season finales so well.
Yes,
what I remember.
they really do.
Yeah.
And one of our listeners, Callie, got in touch with me and told me that the creators, Damon Lindelof and Carlton Cuse, wrote every single season finale. So that goes a long way to explaining why they're all so consistently amazing. And they all have that kind of, that recontextualizing where they just like make you think about the whole show in kind of a different way.
Right. Yeah, and I feel like they're so good at writing the characters consistently. So that's always nice to see.
Yeah, and I feel like they write the best version of all these characters.
Yeah, absolutely.
There are a lot of tricky ones to write who have come off inconsistently across the season. Like Charlie stands out to me as someone who we get a very inconsistent view of. I feel like some people just don't have a good handle on him. And we'll be like, Charlie would never do that.
Right.
You know?
Definitely.
But they've got the best handle on these guys.
Yeah, for sure.
So, what was your least favorite season 1 episode?
This was actually kind of tough too, because I feel like most of the season 1 episodes are so good, or at least pretty solid.
Yeah, it is hard. I mean, I think blanket statement, they're all pretty good.
Yeah. Yeah. I finally had to go with Hearts and Minds. I think it's episode 13, which it's mostly because it's about Boone and Shannon. And as I've previously stated, I don't really care about them that much.
Yeah.
And then Locke does some really crazy stuff in this episode that I'm like not completely on board with.
Yeah, I feel like that episode started your problems with Locke.
Yeah, it like absolutely
before that, you
did.
Were okay with him.
That's 100% true. That's where it all started for me.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I mean, if your like 2 least favorite characters are in this episode.
Yeah, it's just so problematic with Locke drugging Boone, and then their whole backstory is also weird and sad and problematic, so...
Problems here, problems there.
Exactly. Yeah, what was your least favorite episode?
So, I went by the episode that bothered me the most. Okay, I picked 2. The one that I felt like I just couldn't get over was Do No Harm.
Yeah, you did not like that one.
I was really passionate about not liking Do No Harm.
Yeah.
Which surprised me because I didn't remember disliking that episode very much. But it was one of those things that the more I thought about it, the more I didn't like it.
Yeah.
I mean, you could just blanketly say it's another Jack episode, and I just wasn't ready for another Jack episode. But I think it was more than that, because, I mean, like I said when we recorded that episode, the Jack backstory we got was fine. It just didn't feel like it should be in that episode to me. And the whole thing just felt really forced to me. And Lost can do better.
Yeah, I feel like that episode's so, I mean, Boone dies, Claire's the baby. It's so, I don't want to say iconic. It's like important. But I mean, I can definitely see why you didn't enjoy that one.
Well, I think that was part of the surprise to me, was all I really remembered was Boone dying. I didn't remember what flashbacks we were getting. And I mean, maybe that's why I didn't remember, because like in my head, they shouldn't go together.
Right.
The other episode that I chose was Raised by Another, Claire's episode. Just because I feel like when we were going through it, it was just problem after problem, and I enjoy Claire as a character, and I just felt like that episode, she deserved better, you know? Like, she deserved like a more, like a rich backstory, and it wasn't. It was all really flat and predictable and almost cheesy at times. It wasn't enough.
Yeah, I remember that episode being kind of blah. I think I raised that one up a little bit more because of that ending with Ethan. It's so crazy. But yeah, her overall backstory isn't the strongest.
No, and you know, it's our only episode with Claire so far, so it's disappointing. Especially because I feel like before that, like that's episode 10, before that, she seems so lively and interesting. And from that point on, she is just pregnant girl. We don't get a lot of depth from Claire in the latter half of season 1.
We don't. And I feel like we don't get a lot of depth from her going forward, unless I'm forgetting some stuff, which is possible. But
yeah, I'm not sure. I think that's often a problem with Claire, though, for sure, because she just gets reduced to, oh, she's the one with the baby, or she's the one who's pregnant.
Right.
You know, that's certainly part of her, but that's not all she is. So it's disappointing that in our one view into her past, it's all we talked about was just her pregnancy.
Yeah, they could have done a little bit more with that.
Yeah, I mean, do we even know, like, what Claire did? Like, what was her job? Do we know anything about her life? I don't feel like we do.
No, not really.
That's horrible.
I know, it's kind of sad.
So, yeah, that episode was just a little bit of a disappointment.
Yeah.
But again, blanket statement, they're all pretty good.
Yeah. So I feel like the poll results for this question were surprising to me. Yeah.
I was surprised too, and I almost feel like people maybe voted for their least favorite title.
Yeah, Same. I feel like they just looked at the title and were like, oh, that's a terrible episode.
Yeah. Okay, so for least favorite episode, the winner was All the Best Cowboys Have Daddy Issues. Which, I mean, Randy and I both hate that title.
Yeah.
But I'm really surprised because, you know, I don't enjoy Time with Jack really, but I thought that was a pretty good episode.
Yeah. Guys, it has the scene where Charlie is strung up from a tree and almost dies. Like, how could you vote that the least? I mean, I know there's like other things going on in that episode, but come on. Yeah.
Well, what I liked in that episode was his backstory. I do remember disliking what was happening on the island, disliking Jack's storyline there. So, I don't know, maybe that's what people are thinking about. Like, I felt like Jack was like manic and kind of crazy and rude and just, I remember that being the episode where I said, this is where my problems with Jack start. But yeah, I'm still really surprised that it's number 1.
Yeah, I remember, I mean, we all know I like Jack, but I found him, even though I didn't necessarily agree with all of his actions, really relatable in that episode. Yeah. And yeah, I feel like that was his best backstory out of the 3 episodes he had. Yeah. Guys, what happened?
I don't know. But after that, the second place was Special, the episode about Michael and Walt.
Yeah,
which
kind of understandable.
That makes a little more sense because people didn't like Michael.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
And then Hearts and Minds. So those all make sense to me. Actually, the third place was a tie. It was between Hearts and Minds and House of the Rising Sun.
House of the Rising Sun is so good. That's surprising. People do not like Sun and Jin, apparently.
Yeah, I guess not. That's very interesting.
Yeah.
Gosh, I'm reading like some of these other ones and I'm just really surprised that people would vote for them.
Yeah.
4 people picked the Moth.
Guys, it's unacceptable. Just kidding, but not really.
I feel like we were both obsessed with the Moth.
It's so good.
Something I found really interesting about people's favorite and least favorite episodes was how many episodes ranked high on both lists. So, Do No Harm ranked highly on people's favorite and on people's least favorite episodes. So that one is just like super polarizing.
Yeah.
You either love it or you hate it.
Oh, that's so funny.
And the same with The Moth, I think. Because I love The Moth and clearly some people hate it.
Man, if you hate that episode, I would love to have a conversation with you to see why you hate it.
We should have like attached a warning to some of these answers. Some answers require explanation.
Yeah, at least 500 words on why you hate this episode.
You must speak for yourself.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's really interesting to read these.
Yeah.
So for the question, who is your favorite couple? We had a definitive vote for Claire and Charlie.
Yeah.
Yay.
I can see that. Their relationship it's so pure and kind of uncomplicated.
Yeah. Not
like a lot of the other relationships on the island, so.
Right. I mean, in season 1, I think they have I keep stopping myself because it's hard to describe because they have their like the first half of season 1 relationship and then the second half of season 1 relationship. So it's a little hard to describe it, but
it's like 2 different things.
Yeah, and even though they are both different, they're both still really good. Like they just have this natural, and I hesitate to say chemistry because I feel like we say it all the time, but they do.
It's true though.
They have a nice vibe about them and they're just so sweet with each other, and we don't get a lot of other relationships like that, not in season 1. Like, I would say the closest to that would be maybe Shannon and Saeed.
I would not say that, but yeah, I could see why you would say that.
Just because I don't feel like Shannon and Saeed don't ever have a conflict until, like, the whole issue with Boone.
Right, that's kind of their main conflict. But
yeah, I guess it just has nothing to do with the two of them, so it just doesn't feel like a relationship conflict. But yeah, so we had Claire and Charlie, and then we had Kate and Sawyer in second, and then Kate and Jack in third. So people like Kate.
Yeah, I love that you included Charlie and Hurley as a couple.
It seemed right.
It's the best.
I'm surprised that Sun and Jin didn't get more support.
Yeah.
I feel like people in general like them as a couple, but maybe just the fact that in season 1, you know, they have a lot of issues.
Yeah, they do. It's very contentious between the two of them.
It is. But at the same time, like, they're the ones who break my heart the most. Like, I want them to fix it and work themselves out in a way where I don't care about other people. Like, you know, I support the Shannon and Saeed thing, but if it doesn't work out, I'm like, okay, it doesn't work out, it's fine.
Right.
Sun and Jin need to be together.
Yeah, they're meant for each other.
Yeah, and I feel like Kate and Jack and Sawyer, they're just this triangle thing, and we're going to ping pong around with that for a while, so I'm not expecting anything with season 1, but Sun and Jin need to be together. But clearly I'm alone in that thought.
Yeah. Wait, so
they got a few votes.
Okay.
They beat out Shannon and Boone, but I mean
thank God for that.
Yeah. That's all. Charlie and Hurley beat them. Shannon and Saeed beat them.
Wow. Interesting.
I don't even feel like I need to ask you.
No, you really don't. But
please explain why Kate and Jack are your favorite.
I mean, I feel like I've said it all before. I I fell in love with them from their first scene together when she was sewing him up and he was talking about fear. They just have such a significant connection.
It's a great meeting.
It is.
It's one of the best meetings on the island, I think.
It really is. And the way it's echoed in the pilot later on when Kate, like, counts to 5 when she's running away from the monster. Mm-hmm. Like, that was it for me. They were just going to be my number one from then on. It's like, they're not... I can appreciate the fact they're both not perfect people.
Yeah, no one on this island is perfect.
Yeah, and I like that they're so different. It's like, I feel like if they had... I guess you could say this about a lot of characters, but I feel like if they had met in the real world, they never would have gotten together.
Yeah, that's true, actually. When I think about that, I can't imagine any scenario where those two would be together.
Yeah, and I feel they're so protective of each other. Oh, I don't know. Guys, I've loved them for like over a decade, so nothing is going to change that. They are just, as much as they frustrate me sometimes, I still love them so much. And like that was one of the reasons too why The Moth was almost my favorite episode, because they had so many good moments in that episode.
Yeah, I feel like their best moments are definitely the first half, and they struggle in the second half of season 1. They're okay, you know, but it's not super flirty like it is in the first half. They're almost like wary of each other.
Yeah, I feel like they start off on a really high, and then with whatever the case may be, it like drops to its lowest point, and then I feel like it slowly goes back up. But yeah, it never gets as high as it did in the beginning of season 1.
Yeah, I feel like the more Jack learns about Kate, the more hesitant he is, because, you know, for all the reasons that they would never be a relationship off the island. You know, she's a criminal and he is like, I don't know how to deal with this. She's lying to me like all the time.
Right. Like the trust is definitely lost between them multiple times. Oh, but I still love them.
Yep. They got a lot to come back from in season 2.
Yeah, they do.
And Kate and Sawyer, I really enjoy Kate and Sawyer because I love both of those characters. But I think I would pick Claire and Charlie over them in season 1. Okay. Just because I like the purity of their relationship. Yeah. It's just kind of, you know, it's just so sweet. And Kate and Sawyer, I really enjoy. And, you know, I said in one of the episodes, I don't remember when or what we were talking about, that Kate and Sawyer could be together, they could be enemies, they could be like this great team. They can just fill like all sorts of different roles, and I always love them together. You know, like just the two of them in a scene. I feel like they're always just dynamite. So that's what I like about them. Yeah. But they don't necessarily need to be a couple for me. I like them as a couple, but I like them in so many other ways, too.
Yeah, I feel like they're just so... Putting aside my feelings for Sawyer, like, they're just so problematic. And you could argue that Jack and Kate are also just as problematic as a couple.
What do you mean by problematic?
Oh, God. I guess I'm just thinking of just the way it's very, like, sexual between them, but, like, more from him than her. Like, he's always... There's so many scenes where he's grabbing her, you know, and they're rolling around... It's so aggressive.
I think they're both aggressive, and I think that's definitely a positive point.
Ugh, I wouldn't say so. It just, like, it just doesn't give me any joy when I watch them. And then they both lie to each other a lot, which I'm not saying Jack and Kate don't do that too, but you definitely have to admit Sawyer and Kate, like, I don't know. I mean, I definitely see the connection between the two of them. Mm-hmm. And I would enjoy it so much more if it didn't have a romantic underlining. Like, if they were just friends, but I don't know. Their relationship is still, it's problematic to me.
See, I don't get a lot of, like, I don't feel like they're very dishonest with each other. I've always felt like that's kind of one of their strengths, is that they kind of see the crappy sides to each other that, you know, they might feel like they need to hide from other people. And they're just like, hey, I'm not a perfect person, but neither are you.
Yeah, I guess I feel like sometimes they bring out the worst in each other. Like, I'm thinking of Born to Run, I think, was the episode where...
When they were both trying to get on the raft.
Right. And then, Sawyer tells everyone about how Kate's a criminal. And then Kate, gives Sun the idea to poison Jin. I feel like that's kind of... They're both, for me at least, when I watch that episode, they're both at their worst in that episode. And I feel like they bring that out in each other more than they bring out the best in each other. At least for me.
Interesting. I can see that. The couples in this show they're all very different.
Yeah.
It's kind of nice. None of these relationships are in any way similar.
So true.
So there's something for every taste.
Yeah.
I feel like Jack and Kate are kind of your classic fairy tale kind of romantic relationship. I mean, we've talked before about how Jack is like that knight in shining armor character. And then, Sawyer is more of that like dashing rogue type. He's your Han Solo.
Exactly. He's like the bad boy.
Yeah. So it's like, do you like Luke Skywalker or Han Solo?
Exactly. And I always liked Luke Skywalker more than Han Solo. Yeah. Yeah.
That totally fits. And I, of course, love Han Solo.
Yeah, exactly. And people always thought I was so weird because I like Luke Skywalker more than Han Solo, so.
Aww. I like Luke Skywalker, too. He's pretty cool.
Yeah.
All right, and then the last question for our poll was, which character made the most growth in season 1? And so I had a really hard time choosing.
Did you?
Because I feel like almost every character makes some amount of growth.
Yeah, me too.
It's just hard to quantify. But I think Sawyer, Locke, and Shannon were my 3.
Ooh, okay.
Sawyer, I think for obvious reasons. I feel like by Exodus, he's like a different guy from the pilot. He's part of the team in a way that he never was in the first half. And he's getting there slowly, but he's taken his steps. Very consistently, I feel like.
Yeah.
Growth, Randy, growth.
Small amounts of growth. It's there, but barely.
Dude is sitting on a raft, swimming into the ocean, saving parts of things. He's doing a lot of stuff, okay? Tells Jack that sweet story.
Oh, God. Yeah, that's true.
Just remember that scene whenever you doubt Sawyer.
You're going to have to remind me of that a lot in the future.
Don't worry, I'm up to it.
Great.
And then Locke, just because of thinking about his life off the island, he's come into his own. I feel like he just, this is the John Locke he was always meant to be. So if you include off of the island, he has grown tremendously. And I feel like he is the person that he was always meant to be now.
Yeah, that's interesting, because when I was thinking about this question, I was just thinking about their time on the island, in a way, I guess. So, yeah, I guess if you count their time off the island, you could definitely say Locke.
Well, I tend to think of their time off the island as kind of their starting point. And Shannon is making her little baby steps like Sawyer.
Yeah.
Baby steps.
Oh man, you picked my 3 least favorite characters from season 1.
Oh my gosh, you're right, I did.
Yeah,
Didn't even think about that.
No, that's funny.
You picked Charlie.
Of course I did.
He made a lot of growth too.
I thought so.
Yeah.
Especially if you're thinking about his time off the island, starts at such a low place, and then I feel like I've already said this, but his whole character arc, making the choice to give up drugs, he almost died. He was technically dead for a while, and God, what is that episode called?
That stupid episode.
Yeah, that we won't name anymore. And that's such a huge thing to come back from. And then that decision he makes when he kills Ethan, not many people would have been able to do that.
No, but I think you can argue that is not necessarily a good thing.
Yeah, you can definitely argue that. I don't agree. So this is just my opinion. I don't know. And like the way he goes after Eren at the end of Exodus, like I feel like he starts off a lot more selfishly than he ends up at the end of season 1.
Yeah.
And I mean, he doesn't end season 1 in like a 100% great note. You know, we see that he took the statue filled with heroin. So
yeah, that really brings him down a lot for me.
Yeah, it doesn't bring him down a ton for me, but I like that character arc. Like, again, I feel like I leave the season thinking, oh, he can go up so much more, and he can also fall a lot more than he is at this moment. So
yeah,
I like the potential we get with Charlie.
Yeah, the only reason I didn't pick Charlie is I feel like for him, if I'm looking at the whole season, he peaked somewhere around the moth. Like, that was the greatest Charlie we had. And then I'm not necessarily against what he did for Ethan, but I don't feel like it was great for his own mental health. Mm-hmm. And so I feel like he stumbled there, and then he stumbled again, you know, by stealing the heroin. So, you know, I still am interested in him and his struggle, and I know that he's still got a long way to go. But I think because he's, you know, taken a few missteps, it doesn't feel like he's done as much positive growth overall.
Yeah, I can see that.
He did really well in the poll, though, so a lot of people definitely agree with you. Sawyer was first place, and Charlie was second, and Locke was third, followed by Jin. So people do like something about Sun and Jin.
Okay. That's good. Yeah. I can see those results. Those are good.
Yeah. Jin makes sense.
Yeah.
I don't know why I didn't think about Jin, but he just didn't come to mind. But he really does make a lot of growth.
Yeah, definitely.
I mean, poor dude's even got to learn English. He's got a lot to keep up with.
Yeah.
And I feel like a lot of his growth is really in the finale, too. So it's really fresh. Because he and Sun are having, like, a weird time for a few episodes before that, where they're not even talking, and I'm not even understanding what's going on with him and why he won't reconcile with her. But by the finale, I'm back on board.
Yeah, his best moments are definitely in Exodus Part 2. Or Part 1.
Yeah.
Whichever.
All right, and those are the poll results. So that was very interesting and enlightening. We're going to have to do that for the other seasons, too, because that was really fun.
Yeah, it was an interesting way to look back on the whole season.
Yeah, definitely. So, when you look back on the whole season, Randy, do you know where I'm going with this?
I do, Tiffany.
What do you feel like was your thematic, overarching thing, if there was one? If you thought of one.
Yeah, so you know how I struggle thinking of themes for these episodes. And there were, they bring up so many big questions in the first season, which we've obviously talked about a lot.
Yeah, I think 23 to be exact.
Yeah. But if I had to pick just one, I think I would go with the theme of everyone gets a second chance.
Oh, that's what I said.
Really?
Yeah, I just said tabula rasa, which is the same thing.
Yeah. They hit that so hard from the pilot and, the episode tabula rasa, obviously. Mm-hmm. And, they really contrast that with each and every episode, because every episode you're getting a backstory with a certain character, and then you're contrasting that with what they're doing on the island and how they're growing or not growing. So
yeah, you're right. It's like built into the structure of the show.
Right, exactly.
To see where they have been to where they are now.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I feel like the pilot and the finale are both just perfect examples of showing that, and they make the perfect bookends to a season about starting over and accepting this new life that they have now. And
right.
hopefully becoming better people because of it.
Yeah, or just doing coming across situations and doing things they never would have come across in the real world. So
yeah, and I mean, it just makes me think about Walkabout and the whole reason that John Locke wanted to go on his walkabout was because it will show you who you are. So, you could say that everyone here is on their own little walkabout. Isn't that nice?
Oh, that's so cute. You could say that. That is true.
But I asked people for their opinions on what they thought were some of the big themes in season 1.
Okay.
So I have a few of those that I wrote down. So Patricia said, "Nothing is what it seems," which is very suitable.
Yeah,
I think.
Very true.
I told her that you could apply that to so many things because it's really true. We've got that mystery with the monster, of course, and this whole island is not what it seems, but neither are these people.
Yeah.
Kate is certainly not what she seems. I'd argue Sawyer's not who he seems.
Yeah. Locke, too.
Yeah, so many of these people, your first impression of them changes drastically when you know who they are or where they've come from. So, I liked that. That's Nadia said, "Eventually, everyone learned how to become independent and how to fight for survival."
That's true.
Yeah, I feel like there were episodes that kind of went into that, and I feel like they could have hit it even harder than they did, where they were kind of talking about like descending into the wild, and like Sawyer called it Lord of the Flies time.
Yeah.
Where it just seemed like sort of civilization was sort of falling away from them sometimes.
Yeah, I feel like they hit on that more earlier in this season, but
yeah, like it was something they started to like examine, but then they just kind of stopped.
Yeah.
I don't know if they will pick that up again or not, but yeah, they definitely learned how to survive, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Derek the Stick, great username, said rebirth or revival as the characters overcome their previous problems.
Yeah.
Which is very in line with what we were talking about.
Yeah, that's definitely very important throughout this whole first season.
Yeah, for sure. So, okay. I feel like we should try to listen to these voicemails.
Okay.
This first call is from Austin815, and she's from the Netherlands, which is awesome.
Hi, Randy and Tiffany. This is Austin815 from the Netherlands. I think it's so great that you guys are doing this podcast. I love listening to your discussion every time. Season 1 of Lost was so good in my opinion because the times were fairly simple if you look at the whole show. But even though season 1 was maybe simple, it was so powerful. You immediately get an impression for every character, and that's so great because each character goes through this development. And I really think that season 1 laid a solid base for the rest of the show. So once again, thanks for this podcast and peace out.
Was that Austin815?
Yes. A stellar username.
Yeah. First of all, thanks for calling all the way from the Netherlands. That's amazing.
I know. It's crazy how far-reaching something that you just do sitting at your computer can be.
Yeah. That's awesome. I love that. I think what she said about it being simple but powerful is the perfect way to describe season 1.
Yes.
Because
I so agree.
Yeah, as the seasons go on, it does, obviously it gets a little bit more complicated each time, but, you could argue if you do something well, it doesn't need to be complicated. So I think season 1 definitely does that.
Yes. And I think I said before, but that's why season 1 has always been my favorite, is the simplicity. I think the simplicity allows you to really focus on the characters, and that's always my favorite part of any show, is just focusing on the characters. So, yeah, that simple storyline can do so much for allowing you to get really complicated with who these people are. But, yeah, so cool. I love these voicemails. So our second voicemail is from Delilah.
Hi, my name is Delilah. I'm on Instagram. I think it's Brandy Delilah, or it's Delilah Brandy. No, I think it's Brandy Delilah. Anyway, yeah, so I guess I don't really have a question so much as a comment for something maybe you guys could talk about is the meaning of names on Lost. And I'm pretty new to the podcast, so sorry if you guys have covered this already, because I'm catching up. But I think it's really cool how in Lost they have lots of philosopher names and literary names, right? So like there's Locke, and then of course this isn't season 1, but then you have, Desmond Hume, and also literary names you have Austen and Sawyer. And anyway, yeah, I just thought that'd be interesting. I know there's other philosopher names, and I'm totally blanking right now. But anyway, I don't know. There's a possible idea for maybe some stuff to talk about. I think it's really cool that you guys set up a number and that you guys are so, open to audience engagement and stuff. Anyway, okay, talk to you guys later. Bye.
So obviously we have already discussed names, and I think Delilah just hasn't gotten to where we have done that yet in the podcast. But I wanted to include this voicemail because, first of all, she took the time to call in, which was so nice.
Yeah, thanks, Delilah.
And secondly, I just thought we could talk about what this does for the show, because I do think names are really important, and Lost makes such a big deal about it in a way that I feel like no other show does, or not any show that I watch. Sometimes there's maybe a character where you can kind of read into their name and find some significance there, but I've just never watched a show that is as as Easter eggy as Lost,
Yeah.
where there's always there's a little pool here and a little pool there from pop culture, from religion, from literature.
Yeah, everything's definitely so deliberate with Lost.
Yeah, it is. And I feel like it adds to kind of the complex world that they're building, where, they're obviously doing this intentionally. They obviously want you to think about why John Locke is named John Locke, or why, Sawyer is named Sawyer. Names are really powerful. So yeah, I feel like it affects the whole atmosphere of the show to have so many weighty names like that.
Yeah. I like that you are bringing it up in most episodes that we record, because, to be honest, I never really thought about the names in Lost before doing this podcast. Mm-hmm. Obviously, the big ones like John Locke, that one's super obvious, so, I remember that one. But
yeah,
now that, you're researching their meanings and we're looking at that almost every episode, it's definitely significant. And I feel like a couple of times you've actually blown my mind with history about the names on Lost. So
like John Locke and Anthony Cooper.
Yeah, that was insane. Still can't get over that.
I know, I can't either. It's so crazy.
It is. And yeah, you're right. It's just one more detail that adds to this, I guess, this world that they're trying to create. And world building is so important when you're telling a story. I can't tell you how many books I've read where if they had just taken the time to be a little bit smarter about the world they were building, the book would have been great. And instead, it was completely ruined by sloppy world building. So
dang, Randy. Those are harsh words.
I won't name any names, but
I wish you would. But you're right. It makes the whole thing feel like this carefully crafted puzzle.
Yeah.
And I can see why people, if you didn't watch this show live, you missed out on some crazy hype, because when this was airing, people analyzed every episode for at least a week and picked it apart and would zoom in on certain portions of their screen caps and would analyze every single number that anyone ever used.
Yeah.
And I think names are just a part of that whole, like you said, the whole world building thing that they're doing.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and I feel like we we watch TV, or TV's so different nowadays anyway. Twitter and Tumblr kind of replaced the crazy message boards that I used to go on after each episode of Lost aired. So,
yes.
Yeah.
I didn't go on any message boards. I think I missed
What? Oh, man.
But I knew they existed, and I knew that it was like a big thing.
I mean, it was intense. I remember I used to go in them all the time, and I think as the show went on, I went on them less and less because people were just into it to the point where it was almost just a little bit too much toward the end. But
I can see that for sure.
Yeah.
People get very emotionally invested in their opinions sometimes.
Yeah. I find I have to be careful nowadays with any show I watch because if I start watching a show and I like it, I'll go online, especially on Tumblr. I don't know if you ever go on Tumblr, but there's like thousands of people on there giving their opinions on like any show that's on TV. But the way people analyze it, every little detail, it can, like if you're not careful, it can really ruin any show that you're watching. I've had so many shows that have it's just killed it for me because I've seen like so many negative opinions about, whatever.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
That's so sad.
Yeah.
Do they just like change your mind about it, or you just don't want to hear all the negative opinions anymore?
Yeah, or it's like there's some shows where even if they're not perfect, you can still personally enjoy them so much. But then when you have people doing screenshots, commenting on everything, commenting on the writing, commenting on the acting, like analyzing each minute of every single episode. And even when it'll be like, oh, that was a pretty good episode, I'll be like, no, let me here's 15 reasons why this was not a perfect episode. Like, it just gets exhausting. And
this sounds like our podcast.
No, but I think there's a way to do it where you can appreciate something and still give constructive criticism on it and not be so like hurtful and unfair.
Yeah.
It's hard to describe if you haven't I don't know if you've ever had a Tumblr account. I used to have one and I had to delete it, and it was just,
oh my gosh.
Even now and then, I'll cut this out, but like every now and then I'll find a new show that I really like. I'll go on Tumblr, and after like a couple of months, it happens with every single show. It'll get like super popular. People will love it. And then people will slowly start tearing it down, like slowly. And then it'll just be like this awful, just negative trap that you're in. Even if the show is still good, like it's a mess.
That's really sad.
Yeah, it is.
I think it's definitely true that it's easier to hate something than it is to love something.
Yes. Definitely.
Like, there is always something to pick apart, and there's always going to be something you can find a problem with. And I think people feel more intelligent when they dislike something versus when they like it.
Yeah.
And it's the harder opinion to have, to say, I like this. And I know it has flaws, but I like it.
Right.
So, yeah, hopefully our podcast doesn't sound like we're totally tearing everything apart.
Yeah.
Hopefully our love for the show comes through strongly enough that doesn't get too annoying for anybody.
Yeah, I hope so.
So we have one last voicemail, and it's a really good one. They're all really good, but... So this is from Callie, and Callie has been very active on giving us lots of feedback and responses to like almost every episode we do, which is so sweet, and she's just been an awesome supporter. So I was really excited to finally hear her voice.
Cool.
Hi, Tiffany and Randy. It's Callie from Virginia. I just wanted to start off by saying thank you so much for starting this podcast. It is seriously the best, and I look forward to it every single week. The contrast in opinions between you both, while still just having a mutual love for all that is Lost, is so refreshing. As Tiffany already knows, I started watching Lost when the pilot episode first aired, and it completely changed my life. It was the first show I ever actually fully watched, and of course, never missed an episode. Naive 13-year-old me had no idea what an emotional yet amazing roller coaster I was getting myself into. Though I guess none of us really did at that time, of course. For me, what I loved most about season 1, and actually the entire series, were the characters, their development, and the relationships they made. I loved getting to know them and learning all the connections the characters had with one another, Like, do you guys remember how mind-blowing it would be seeing characters in each other's flashbacks and they didn't even know it? Crazy. You guys talk about themes in every single podcast, which I actually love. There are definitely so many in this show, but the biggest one that stands out to me, especially for season 1, is Jack's iconic quote, "Live together, die alone." To keep things short, this to me means relationships are what really matter in the end and what keep us together. And there were just a couple last things I had to mention. First, I can't believe how many people dislike Jack. I had no idea. So earlier this year, I made a Lost Instagram fan account, which is actually how I found out about the podcast because Tiffany followed me on there. I was seriously shocked by the Jack hate. I honestly had no idea it was possible to dislike him. Jack was always a hero to me and one of my favorite male characters on the show. Thanks, Tiffany, for bringing to surface some of his flaws for me, but I guess I have always been blinded by my love for him. However, no matter what, I'm always going to have Randy's back when it comes to Jack, even if some, maybe, of Tiffany's points make sense. Anyways, love you guys. I hope the time doesn't go by too quickly because I love reliving Lost with you too. Thanks. Bye.
Callie, we need to hang out in real life. Oh my.
Randy's gonna be your new best friend.
Absolutely.
I would like to be friends too, guys. Do I have to like Jack?
Yeah, or you're not allowed.
Aw.
No, but that's such. I love the point you made, Callie, about one of the themes being "Live Together, Die Alone," because I almost wrote that when I was thinking of an overall theme for season 1. So yeah, I feel like that's also it's so important.
I think that is I feel like that is a great theme that I think they're going to hit stronger later.
Okay.
Because it is iconic, but I feel like it's more iconic when I think of the whole show than season 1. Because in season 1, they kind of are together. There really isn't a problem with people branching out alone.
Good point.
But that will become a problem later.
Yeah.
As, people start dividing and, having differences of opinion. And so, yeah, I definitely think that that's a significant theme. And I think that we will talk about it a lot more as we go on.
Yeah, that could be like a theme for the whole show, possibly.
It really could. I don't think there's a line that we call back to any more than that one.
Yeah, I don't either. Oh, I love it. Thank you, Callie. Thank you for validating my like of Jack as a character. I'm glad I'm not the only one. Because I, too, meet a lot of people who don't like him, and I don't understand.
He's very polarizing. People seem to really love him or hate him.
Yeah, very true.
It's very interesting. I feel like I have a better grasp on why you like him after doing this podcast.
Uh-huh.
Like, I see the admiration for Jack. I feel like a lot of people admire him and think, like, oh, he's a good guy doing the right thing. I guess that's why people like him. Am I right?
Yeah, I mean, it's not just that. I've said this before, but I feel like he, along with being just a mostly decent human being, he's relatable as a character to me.
Right, yeah. So yeah, all that stuff makes sense. And I don't think you guys are alone. I think plenty of people like Jack.
I hope so.
I think the people who the ones who don't really don't.
Yeah. It's very true. They've told me many times in person, so.
Yeah, that was such a great phone call. I'm so glad you took the time to call us and tell us all that.
Yeah, that was awesome. Thank you so much.
It's also nice to hear from somebody who, like us, has been watching from the very beginning. Because I feel like I don't know, it's hard to say because we both saw it from the beginning. I just imagine it to be a very different experience to watch it now.
Yeah, especially if you didn't have to wait weeks between episodes or months between seasons.
Right.
If you just binge watch it all in a few months, you're getting a totally different experience with Lost.
Yeah, which is what my husband did.
Yeah.
So, like, when he and I first started dating, that was when Randy and I were living together. And so we borrowed Randy's DVDs because he needed to catch up on Lost immediately to be a good boyfriend.
Of course.
And so we watched probably the first four or five seasons, probably 4 seasons at that point, really quickly, like within a month or two.
Yeah.
And I think it's all a blur to him. He doesn't remember the specifics, and I think Lost shines on the specifics. It's so detailed, and there's so much that you miss. So, like, the slower you go and the more time it kind of marinates, I feel like the more you're like, oh, and then this thing, and then, oh, you know?
Right. Well, I feel like it's especially now that we're doing a podcast about it and really analyzing it, we're definitely picking up on a lot of the details.
Yeah, and I've watched this show like 6 times, at least.
Yeah.
So, to still be seeing things that I hadn't seen before is kind of crazy.
Yeah. But yeah, I feel like, yeah, you definitely get a different experience if you binge watch a show. Like, for example, my sister, a few months ago, she decided to start watching Game of Thrones, which, if you guys watch Game of Thrones, you know it just finished season 7. So I remember she watched all 7 seasons of Game of Thrones in like 3 weeks. So
wow.
Yeah, it was insane. And it was so funny when we were talking about it because when we were talking about favorite characters, she would mention characters and I'd be like, I don't even remember who you're talking about. Because, you know, if you've watched that from the beginning, it's like months and months between seasons. So, But she was like, it wasn't years for me. Like, I just watched that episode a few weeks ago. So.
I know. Even watching it slowly like I have, I still can't keep track of all the characters and everything happening.
Same. She would mention things, I'd be like, I don't even know what you're talking about. So, and I love that show. So yeah, it's, so it's television. The way we watch TV has changed so much since 2004.
It really has. It's insane.
Yeah.
And now everyone is panicking because Lost is leaving Netflix.
Yeah. Lame.
I know so many people on Instagram have made a lot of posts about this and are very, very upset and think they'll never be able to watch Lost ever again. But guys, there's a world beyond Netflix. It's out there. I assure you. We survived without Netflix for a long time.
I know. It doesn't seem like it. I feel your pain. I feel like every time they take one of my favorite shows off Netflix, it's like someone went behind my back and took my favorite books off my bookshelf. And like, I go back and I'm like, excuse me, what is this? So.
That's the perfect metaphor. That is exactly how it feels.
Yeah, it is.
I wanted to watch House the other day, and I realized that House was removed.
Oh,
no!
So sad.
So yeah, it's sad, but
we'll get through it.
If you love a show, you should buy the DVD.
Yeah,
just do it.
Invest in the DVDs. Buy yourself an early Christmas gift or something.
That's what I did tonight, actually.
Did you?
I bought myself the Blu-ray of Lost because somehow I never owned it. I think because I lived with you, I could always watch it whenever I needed to. Yeah. And then, later on, I just had Netflix, so it never seemed necessary. But I'm taking this as like a good sign that it's time I own Lost. So earlier tonight, I bought the Blu-ray, and I'm pretty excited.
Congratulations!
Also, I checked my local library, and they had it, so I didn't even need to do this. I felt like I should own Lost.
Yeah, I mean, we are doing a podcast about it, so...
Right?
Yeah.
Makes a little bit of sense. But I definitely believe in supporting the shows that you love, and while Lost is long over, and I'm not really supporting anyone at this moment... I have it, and I can now lend out Lost to, anybody who wants it.
There you go.
I'm spreading the Lost love.
Yeah, you can recruit some new fans for Lost.
Yeah. All right. That was very fun. I'm glad we did that.
Yeah, me too.
And that's now a wrap on season 1. It took us well over 24 hours to discuss this whole season, but we did it.
Yeah.
I'm very proud of us.
Me too.
Thank you so much for listening, everybody. Please help us spread the word about this show. If you haven't already, we need you to head to iTunes and rate, review, subscribe to Freckles and Blondie there. And if you can send us $1 a month or whatever you can afford via Patreon. The link is on our website, thelostpodcast.com. And speaking of Patreons, we have to do some acknowledgments here. And thank Jeremy for becoming a Drive Shaft Bandmate level Patreon supporter.
Yay.
Jeremy, you're a hero.
Thanks, Jeremy.
Yeah, you're awesome. So thanks to Jeremy and others, we are only $6 away from our first Patreon goal.
Ooh.
That's like remarkably close.
Yeah, very close.
That means we're only $6 away from monthly Lost watching parties where we can all just chill online together and enjoy some Lost. I can't think of anything better. Hopefully you guys bought your Lost DVDs.
Yeah. Invest in those now.
We will be back to discuss season 2. So many people have been asking me if we're going to continue after season 1.
Okay.
Like, what?
Like we would just stop after one season and be like, okay, bye.
Apparently that is what other people do. I have heard that multiple other podcasts have started on Lost and they just stop after season 1. This is just like where everyone peters out.
Oh, guys, that's so sad.
It is sad, and we are better than that.
Yeah, and I'm so excited for season 2. There's things that happen in season 2 which are so interesting. Some of my favorite characters get introduced. I can't wait.
Yes. I'm so excited.
Yeah.
I can't wait to meet some of these people.
Seriously.
We still haven't even met, like, one of my favorite, God, like,
Mine
3 of my favorite characters.
Mine too.
So yeah, we will definitely be back for season 2, but we are going to take a little break as the holidays approach. So we'll probably be back again in January. We just don't have an exact date for you.
Yeah, and I feel like it might take us a few weeks because we might record a few episodes just to get ahead.
Yeah.
But
So no exact week.
But yeah, like Tiffany said, definitely sometime in January we'll be back with season 2.
Yes. Just keep up with us on social media, and you know that I'll be very annoying and pestering everybody there.
Yeah.
So just pay attention, and you will definitely see when we're going to post the next episode
Yep.
as soon as we know.
Subscribe on iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts.
Yes, all the more reason for you guys to head to iTunes and just leave a review while you're there.
Do it right now.
It would be a wonderful Christmas present.
Yeah, it would.
That's all I want for Christmas are iTunes reviews.
Me too.
All right, until next time, I'm Tiffany.
And I'm Randy.
And this has been Freckles and Blonde.